No problem at all.
So, let me just have a sip of water whilst that's...
That's fine.
Because I don't like when I arrived, I was like, it's alright.
Do you want me to straighten it out a bit, or is it alright?
Nah, she's alright there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, hi everyone. I'm here today with the lovely James from Newton Fallowell estate agents, which are on Burton Street. And we're going to talk about houses today.
Fantastic.
Both
Good.
buying houses and letting houses.
Yeah. No problem at all.
So, James, how did you get into the estate agent realm to begin with?
Okay, so, well, I'm relatively new to Melton, Kelly. I've been in going back to your question, I basically, when my oldest lad is 8 years old, so it's roughly about the time that I got involved with estate agency at the grand age of 35. And yeah, I'd worked for a company in Peterborough that had a lettings agency, and ultimately they asked me to set up the sales side there, and that's exactly what I did with no experience of being in an estate agency, and my background's very marketing and customer service focused, which I believe is what estate agency is about. I've helped over 1,000 families with their house sales. I don't believe I've ever sold a house in my life. It's ultimately we're there to help people with the process of the whole journey. So that's when I got involved about 8 years ago. But yeah, joined Fallowell and Melton back in December now. So yeah, I actually live in Grantham.
Yeah.
Been working in Peterborough, Stamford and Deeping. But now Melton's my work home, so to speak, and will be for as long as I can see.
And you've properly jumped into it from the marketing side, haven't you? Because I discovered you guys through TikTok and the TikToks that you're filming on there. So kind of talk about why was it like you kind of wanted to jump on that particular... When I got involved in the industry,
I appreciate it might be new for you in Melton, to see estate agents doing that might be, but when I jumped into the industry 8 years ago, ultimately I looked at what is wrong with estate agents and looked at what was the best things that some of the estate agents up and down the country were doing, and I've been doing this for 8 years. So I started getting involved with video marketing, if you like, literally probably about 7.5 years ago, and as that's evolved, over the years, so's my videos, as simple as that. So, it's one of those I used to, because I go out valuing homes and giving people advice about obviously their sale process, and quite often I'm not necessarily in Melton yet, although it has started already. Oh, you're the chap I've seen on the video. But I'd go to a home, and I'd knock the door and they'd sort of know who I was before I even arrived, or think they know who I was, so to speak, recognise me.
It's the same, isn't it? They recognise you and it's like, oh, hello.
Yeah, I'm sure you get it as well from your content. Oh, you're the lady who does all these videos about Melton.
I literally had it Sunday night. My other half and I went to the Jenny B because they had David from Celebrity Big Brother doing a PA there. Yeah. Biggest PA Melton's had in the 5 years I've been doing it, and the amount of times people came up to me wanting selfies and whatnot. My other half came to me the day afterwards like, you're missing a trick here, like they should be charging you to go stand in sit in a nice little chair in the corner taking selfies. But no,
I appreciate you're here to ask me questions, but do you mind if I ask you one?
Go for it.
Why did you get involved in creating content about Melton? What's the story? What's your story?
What's the story? So basically, I set it up. It was the start of February 2019. Yeah. So it basically started from a report that the BBC Newsbeat did, saying, and it was called the Know Your Place report, and it was because Melton Mowbray in this report was deemed the worst place to live if you're aged 16 to 26. Okay. Out of all of the local authorities across the UK. Okay. So...
And what you thought, I'm not having that?
Basically, I've come from a background of like making change before I set it up. So like when I was at De Montfort, I set up and became the union's first ever postgrad representative. I've been on student councils at like secondary, etc. So like wanting to change and wanting to do good was always something that I kind of did when I was younger growing up. So I was like, I'm not having that. So been doing a lot of campaigning, and part of that campaigning is, well, people can't go and spend money at something if they don't know it exists. Mm-hmm. So that's why I do a lot of the content that I do, and it's why I also work on my content. and read up about different trends, etc. as well, so that I can get as many people to view my content, to know about a particular business, particular event, etc., etc. Because then if people visit it and people like the look of it and people spend money there, well, that business is more likely to stay open, that event's more likely to happen in the future. And also another byproduct of that is if people are going to be more likely to invest in Melton, and therefore the gaps that we currently have would be more likely to be filled, and therefore we have an upward trajectory, not a downward one.
Okay, good.
So let's talk a little bit about the valuations then. So because you were saying earlier that you do valuations, so when you go about doing a valuation, how do you decide, right, this house is worth, or this flat's worth this much to buy and this much to rent?
It's a good question, that, because ultimately quite a lot of people think estate agents just put the things right there and see how they feel and what have you. Listen, again, when I got involved in the industry, and I've been extremely consistent from when I got involved. I'm doing stuff now that I was doing 8 years ago. I looked at what's wrong with estate agents saying all that time ago, and one of the big things was that estate agents typically overvalue homes. So I try and do my best to advise people on the correct value of their homes, and it's done basically through, I spend roughly, and depending on what the type of property is, anything from half an hour to an hour sort of trawling through property data, statistics, square footage analysis, comparable properties, etc. So that I tend to go out to, let's say I'm going out to a house later on Kings Road today, and I've got an idea that it's worth anywhere between 200 and 240 grand. That's my bracket, and when I go there, it will be based on the condition.
Yeah.
If you like, the curb appeal of it, how it appeals to what else is on the market, etc. And I'm very, very straight with people in respect of, look, this is what a bank is going to value it, because it doesn't matter if I think a house is worth 500 grand and the owner thinks it's worth 500 grand. If the bank goes in and when somebody wants to get a mortgage on it and says it's 400 grand, that's ultimately what they're going to achieve. And you need to be frank and have those conversations. And far too often, I think sometimes estate agents will try and give it the highest value, try and win the business.
Yeah.
I'll happily walk away. If somebody wants to put it on at too much money, I'll don't get me wrong, they're my client and I will do what's best for them.
Yeah.
But I'll also be very straight and say, look, this is where it physically values up at. If you want to try a bit higher, you can. But
because I've noticed that sometimes the easy thing isn't necessarily the right thing by a client.
No.
Like the easy thing is, well, we'll go up as high as we can. I'll get a nice little owner's happy. I get a bit more of that commission.
Only if it completes. Yeah, it's not. We don't earn any money until things complete anyway. And also, you just listen. Estate agent's job. Everybody thinks it's to sell houses. Well, I don't. I've never ever got involved. Estate agent's job is to help people move onto the next chapter of their lives. And it sounds really corny and really cheesy.
We're here for corn and cheese.
But it is.
We're here for corn and cheese.
But honestly, it is. Whether it's Mr. and Mrs. Smith who are separating and Mrs. Smith's going off with Mr. Jones, I'm there to help both parties move on. I'm there to help the family that's moving to Melton because they've been relocated and they're working at Mars. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm there to help them, and we're there to help them with the whole process of that. The selling of the house is a small aspect of it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. You're saying about the new, your big thing is about helping people move on to the next stage. And one of the stages that my generation and the generation after me are really wanting to do is we want to move to that stage of owning our own place.
Yeah.
Which,
it's really, really
it's not the easiest thing to do
really,
at the
really
moment.
tough. Rent figures are at the highest they've been for a while, which you're probably aware.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, the banks, the government, they're trying to do everything they can to help ultimately the younger generation get onto the property ladder, etc. And the 95% mortgages are back. So I appreciate it's tough. I can't I can't change people's financial situations, etc. All I advise is that if you want to get on the property ladder, every penny you can, you need to save. and that means stop by the £4 Costa coffee, once a day, and do you know what I mean? And things like that. It's daft, but that's the only way you're going to be able to save enough to get a deposit to then obviously look down the process of obviously getting a mortgage. But the first step really is to get, let's just say the average sort of first time buyer house is about 200 grand. You need to get about 10 grand saved up.
Yeah, I don't have that in my ISA at the moment.
I know. And it takes time. It does take time,
She's building, but she's not quite on 20k yet.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's one of those. You need, once you've got that process, then you start to have a conversation with, an independent mortgage advisor. And we work with a company called Mortgage Advice Bureau very closely.
Yeah. Who
ultimately offer the best advice to people. It's free to speak to them.
And it's impartial as well, isn't it? If I'm
Totally.
correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had people that we've recommended them to and they end up buying through other agents, so to speak. It's not specifically for us, it's totally impartial. So it's tough. Listen, I know it's tough, but the sooner you can do it, the better, and you're not going to be, don't get me wrong, renting's obviously always got its place, but you don't want to be throwing money around rent for 20 years, so to speak, if you could ultimately be paying off your mortgage.
No. And for those of you wondering exactly what a LISA is, I know I mentioned it earlier and how I've got money ticking away. Let's talk a little bit about LISAs, because I personally think everybody who's wanting a first house, who is allowed to have a LISA, should have a LISA. That's my own personal opinion.
I'm with you. I don't really have much more to add on that.
No.
It's just like get involved with it, get it started and start doing it.
But for those of you wondering what a LISA is, because obviously we're throwing around the thing, but some of you might be watching going, what is LISA? So basically a LISA or a lifetime ISA is a special kind of savings account.
Sounds like head lice, doesn't it? It's got head lice. Sorry. Totally throwing you. Lifetime ISA's gone.
So it's a very special kind of saving account where the government actually gives you money. So how it works is, for every £4,000 you save in a tax year, the government will give you £1,000. But obviously, once your £4,000 is done, that's no more bonuses after that, that's there. But the catch is that you cannot take any money out of said LISA until you are buying your first house, or I believe it's pension...
retirement age.
Yeah, retirement age. And if you take your money out before either one of those two things, you get a nice big fat penalty that nobody particularly wants to be having. So if you are wanting to look at a first home, definitely look into the terms and conditions of LISAs, see what different options are out there. I personally use Moneybox, just because of the fact that it just moves the money over each week. I'm one of those people that if I see it in my bank, I'm more likely to spend it. Whereas if it's put away and I can't touch it, I'll just let it tick away. I'm a ticker as opposed to a grabbing.
Well, what I do is I just make sure my wages go into my other half's account, and then I don't have to worry about it.
Modern problem. Myself and my other half, we live in two separate addresses, so we can't do the shared bank account yet. But so if you are within that age bracket, which I believe is 18 to 40, if I remember correctly.
Need to double check it,
if I'm wrong, I'll put the fact check in the comments afterwards. But if you're definitely in that age and you are looking for the first home, definitely look into it. Because basically the government is giving you a top towards your home.
Yeah, correct. It's a scheme to help, help encourage saving to help people get on the property ladder. So, and it's like they've got shared ownership schemes now as well. Again.
How about do they work? Because I hear different bits about them. Could you give us more?
Typically with shared ownership, it tends to come from new builds to start with. Obviously, they do come along as resales, but shared ownership, and it starts really anything from 25% up to 75%. So let's assume you've got a house that's 200 grand, you can buy 50 grand worth of it. At 25%, and you have to pay a rent on the other 75% of it.
Okay.
So, and so that's ultimately the way it works. But you can staircase it, and over the years you can take more ownership of it, which obviously reduces your rent on it. And the rent is at a discounted rate.
Yeah.
So, we've got something at the moment that's 50% shared ownership resale. I think I want to say the purchase price is around about 90,000.
Okay.
And the rent on it's around about 400. So
that's a lot more feasible.
Of course it is.
Compared to
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to find like a couple of grand in your license than it is to find 20k in your license, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, it's a good option, but obviously the ideal scenario is if you can get on the ladder, it's as soon as possible with full ownership, then great. But shared ownership is sort of the next step.
Yeah. Well, I think that concludes our lovely little chat today. So I'm Michael James that you are here, there and everywhere at the moment. Yeah. And even before I set up, you were off helping with a client to help them on their next chapter. Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy day to have a chat about all things housing.
It's absolutely fine. I'm going to collar you later on in the year anyway, because I'm going to be doing a big campaign. I'll put it out there now, so it's a bit of...
shameless plug!
No, campaign about Melton Mowbray, and why it's a fantastic place to live, and why people should come and live here. And I'd like you to be a part of that.
Okay.
And I'm putting it out there now to be accountable for it. If I haven't done it, I'm planning on starting it at the end of the summer.
Okay.
It's things that I've done in Stamford, Peterborough, Market Deeping before, where I've worked about why they're amazing places to live. And I see you as being somebody I'd like to interview myself. Nothing to do with estate agents. At the end of the day, it's. I'm very passionate about wherever I'm working and about supporting the town, and I want to do that.
Yeah.
All right.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's next time we'll see each other.
Yes, if I did not see you before.
All right. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Cheers.